Hi everyone, this is Paul here for the Magdalene Centre. Today I'm doing the astrology report for the week commencing the 10th of April. I'll be outlining some of the key aspects and transits taking place this week and giving an overview of what it all means. Before I do that, I just want to clarify, as I always do, that the astrology doesn't control our lives. It gives us a framework to help us understand what is unfolding around us. It helps us to recognise what key areas of growth are being presented to us at this time and where the opportunities lie for us to maximise growth. But for anything to actually occur, for anything to change in our lives, it requires that we take the responsibility of taking the information and converting it into action. So it's identifying the best course of action that we need to be taking based on the opportunities presented to us, and making sure it's guided by wisdom and not just blind impulse, so that we're not creating karma for ourselves in the process of seeking to grow from the astrology. Now, in terms of the aspects this week, I'll begin with the moon as usual. We start off with the moon in Gemini, so this is a time where you may feel that you need to kind of work on communication or to engage in networking and social engagements. On Thursday, the moon will enter her home sign of Cancer, so this is a time where you may feel more connected to the emotions than usual. It's also time for kind of working on nurturing ourselves, whether that be through spending time with ourselves, through or eating food, spending time at home and resting. And it's just having that nurturing ourselves and having the emotions given the freedom to flow without trying to control them. Then on Saturday we'll have the moon entering Leo, so this is we may feel a desire to create, to explore self-expression, and to seek to be our authentic selves and encourage the expressive nature of ourselves and others. And then on Monday, the moon will enter Virgo, and this is a time where that desire to shine gets mellowed out, and it's time to look at more practical matters and what changes can we make, or what kind of order do we need to establish in our lives to maximise health. So this may be a time where we may feel the need to kind of get tasks done that will benefit our physical and mental health through establishing more order in our environment. Now, in terms of the rest of the aspects this week, on Wednesday itself, Jupiter is going to be turning retrograde. So he'll be retrograde until the 11th of August. So this is a time for reflecting on beliefs, reflecting on our own ethical compass and our own moral compass, and seeing if what the tasks or the goals that we're pursuing are congruent with who we are. It's about looking at the beliefs that we've adopted and seeing, are they ones that we've adopted because they resonate with who we are, or are they ones that we've adopted out of fear of reprisal? So we've unconsciously suppressed our own inner compass for in favour of going with the crowd, or seeking social approval, or doing things to stay connected socially so that we avoid social rejection, or we avoid the reprisals of going against the status quo. On the same day, we have Venus is going to be conjunct Neptune in Pisces, so this gives us an opportunity to transform the way we engage in relationships and also our values, so they're much more based around spiritual love and compassion. So it's also, this may be a time where whatever attachments we have in relationships is given the chance to be dissolved and allow more empowering and free relationships to emerge, where we have unconditional love for one another. We also seek to allow the other person freedom to be who they are, and to allow them to be themselves, and to pursue the path of growth that is best for them. So it's having that unconditional love that allows us to free ourselves from any relationships that have manipulation in it, but also to love other people enough to allow them to do what they want to do, rather than trying to control things or trying to make people adhere to a status quo in relationships. There's having that understanding that if we have unconditional love, we can't then seek to control other people or relationships at the same time. Likewise, if we want to resonate with that higher spiritual energy, we also have to let go of material attachments and transform our value system so that it's aligned with the spiritual perspectives, rather than just what will bring us personal pleasure in life. And on the last thing on Wednesday is going to be a square between the Sun and Saturn. So this square highlights the challenge of incorporating discipline and recognizing that in order to achieve anything, or in order for us to tap into a flow of grace consistently, we have to incorporate discipline into our sense of who we are. We have to incorporate patience, perseverance and self-control, because these are the tools that allow us to stay true, stick out goals that we want to achieve. So if we lack discipline, we will never be able to achieve a long-term goal that is worth going for. Any goal that's worth achieving requires discipline, it requires patience, and it requires perseverance in the face of challenges. It's also one of the things we need to look at this time is, if we do encounter any challenges, do we take the low road of resenting it and feeling frustrated about the challenges or the seeming obstacles, or do we recognise that the challenges are there to test our faith in what we're doing, to test our willingness to pursue things in the face of obstacles, and challenges are necessary in life in order to develop character, to develop patience, persistence, and that deep internal strength that no one can take away from us, because it's been forged through the challenging experiences in life. So it's that developing that metal in life that allows us to keep going at things no matter how much resistance we may encounter along the way. The following day we have Saturn will be conjunct the South Node, or start its conjunction with the South Node. This particular aspect, due to the fact that the South Node is always retrograde and Saturn will be turning retrograde at the end of the month, the two are going to be stuck together for just over 6 months. This aspect is not going to end until the 13th of October. So with Saturn conjunct the South Node, one of the things that may bring up is highlighting where we do have reserves of discipline, but it may also show where we have an innate or a deep resistance to doing anything that goes against the status quo or goes against established norms, and also where we're unwilling to step outside of our comfort zone, or unwilling to try something new that would push us to grow in a direction that honours who we are, or allows us to develop our natural gifts. Because with the South Node in Capricorn, one of the things we're having shown to us at the moment is where do we focus our energies in only on goals that are done to gain social acceptance, or done to try and gain respect of other people, as opposed to fostering self-respect? Where do we seek responsibility for or try to take over responsibility for things that aren't ours to take responsibility for? And where do we tend to try and shut down the emotions in order to avoid that feeling of knowing that we're not doing what's right for who we are, and trying to do everything from a pragmatic perspective without recognising the truth of the situation? Saturn is also known as the Lord of Karma. It's about the ripening of karma. Now, the thing to understand is, yes, Saturn as a planet is external to us, but the archetype of Saturn is within us. So the karma that we may experience over the next few months, if we've created some for ourselves, is not enforced by the planet Saturn. It's enforced by the internal archetype of Saturn, which allows the subconscious to draw to us experiences which show us the karmic repercussions of certain choices that we may or we may be continuing to make without realising that it's not good for us, or is not a wise course of action. So one of the things we need to be looking at this time is, if we do experience some kind of karmic event or karmic experience, rather than resenting it, or rather than fighting against it, or resisting it, or resorting to blame and anything but other people, it's having that wisdom to say, okay, you know what, made that mistake in the past, but I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to learn from this, and I'm not going to create karma for myself going forwards. Because this is a time for looking at overcoming any tendency towards sticking with what we've always done, even when it's creating karma. And this is a time to face any karma that we do. So it's like suck it up, buttercup. if we don't, we may not enjoy it, but it's showing us the consequences of certain course of actions we may have been taken out of habit, and showing that actually it's not based on wisdom. It's not a good idea to do it, so don't do it in the first place. This is what it feels like to be on the receiving end of this. If you don't like it, stop doing it. So this is something that will be unfolding over the next 6 months. So it's important that we all have that honesty and humility with ourselves to recognise when we're being shown a karmic repercussion of something, and rather than resisting it or complaining, acknowledge it, accept it, and use it as a stepping stone towards greater growth, free of any karmic baggage, as it were. So this is a time of ripening karma and the resolution of it. If we have that willingness and courage to let go of the old karma and let go of the tendencies to do things for the sake of gaining social acceptance or social credence, as it were, and instead do what honours who we are, is based on truth and aligned with the natural laws, we avoid creating karma for ourselves, we tap into greater degrees of inner potential, and we maximise our growth. Then on Friday we'll have the sun, we'll be squaring the nodes. So this is like a crossroads, as it were. We've got the south node and the north node. The sun in Aries is square to Cancer and Capricorn. So Aries is that desire to assert ourselves, that need for freedom, but it's also, we need to understand, take responsibility for what we create in our lives, and with a square to Cancer, part of it is about taking responsibility for our own emotional welfare and own emotional security, and recognizing that creative security in terms of the emotional sense is created on the inside. We can't try and make things happen a certain way to gain a sense of security. The feeling of security is something that we create inside ourselves through overcoming emotional complexes, whilst at the same time, with the sun square to the south node in Capricorn, it's about shedding any parts of ourselves that have been related to trying to take courses of action based on what will bring us social acceptance, and it's overcoming that tendency. On Saturday, the sun will be square to Pluto. This brings out is a time to look at any power drives we have, or what is our deeper motivations for doing things. So whenever we're making choices, it's always important we understand ourselves enough to know what our motivations for doing things are. And if our motivations are based on fear, they're based on control, or based on seeking power over other people, or our choices are made out of this obsession with victimhood, then this aspect may well show us where we need to overcome these tendencies, where we need to recognise the role that our own shadow plays in events, and rather than trying to fight against the collective shadow, is heal our own personal connection to that shadow, which is through our own shadow side. Is accept it when it arises, transform it through loving acceptance and personal discipline, and overcome any power desires that are based on control or based on the illusion of power through the mastery of the physical environment. Instead, true power lies in inner mastery, the self-mastery of controlling our internal landscape and the capacity to control our responses to external events. The final aspect this week is on Sunday. This is an exact trine between the Sun in Aries and Jupiter retrograde in Sagittarius. We'll be feeling the trine throughout the week, so this smooth flowing energy will to some extent help us with all the other harder aspects going on. But this particular trine reminds us to remember to believe in ourselves. It also allows us to look at developing greater self-understanding, and it's having that feeling that flow of abundance, as it were. But for us to tap into abundance, we have to discipline the mind and overcome any fear-based thinking or fear-based belief complexes, and instead believe that we have the capacity to create abundance within our own lives, and we also have the capacity to create spiritual abundance within us through the cultivation of the fruits of the Spirit, and achieving a greater degree of self-understanding through looking at our beliefs, expanding our mind beyond the current limit, and seeing things from a broad perspective, and seeing how we're interconnected with the rest of the cosmos and the rest of humanity. There's a lot going on this week. The main things to look at, though, are incorporating more discipline into our lives, being honest about our own shadow, and with Jupiter turning retrograde, it's a time to get honest with ourselves about our beliefs and our sense of ethics. Are we following a path in life that honours the essential integrity of who we are, or it follows our innate ethical code, or have we suppressed our own innate sense of justice and our own sense of moral ethics in favour of what other people are saying in order to avoid social reprisal? In which case, we'll need to develop the courage to transform that and let go of the need to be socially accepted socially, and instead stay true to who we are, so that we then vibrate with the resonance of our true self, and the people who are right for us can then take their place within our own lives. And if we're always following projects to avoid social reprisal, then this is something we need to overcome. Otherwise, we won't be with the people who are right for us. We'll be going with the crowd in order to feel accepted, but we won't feel fulfilled, because deep down we know that what we're doing isn't right for who we are and will have an impact on our health in the long run. So may this week bring you much illumination, much transformation, and a greater degree of self-awareness and self-understanding. Take care and be blessed.